Welcome to Around the Ozarks, a public affairs program brought to you by your local Midwest Family Broadcasting station. Here's your host, Scott Meyer.
Good morning and welcome to this morning's edition of Around the Ozarks. I'm your host, Scott Meyer, and I'm the general manager here at the Midwest Family Broadcasting group of radio stations. And I know every week I start off with I've got a really special guest this morning, but I've got to tell you, this morning's guest is special in that he's the first artist I can think of that we've had on the show that we're featuring. And I had a chance to meet him a couple of weeks ago during an event, allowing us a firsthand look at some of his photography artwork. And his name is Randy Bacon. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, and what nice words. Thank you.
Well, it's only nice words because it was a fascinating exhibition. As I've told the audience before, I've only had a chance to live in the Springfield area really since February. And what I've come to learn is we've got a real gold mine of the arts here for a community this size. Currently involved with the symphony, obviously doing some work with some of the local theater, and then finding that we have I don't know whether to call you and help me with this. Are you a photojournalist? Are you a photo artist? Are you an artist who just happened to fall into photography? I mean, tell us a little bit about Randy Bacon.
Basically, I'm still that boy with the toy.
Okay.
And seriously, when I was 14 or 15 years old, I got a camera. And I was always the kid in school that was getting in trouble for doodling and that kind of guy. But when I got the camera, it just totally changed for me. And I had no idea how this thing would evolve as it has. There's no way you could dream this. But from the very first, I knew it was something that was fun for me. And I knew it was something that I'd like to try to create art. But for me also, I saw it as a voice. And it's something almost sacred. And so I consider myself an artist, I consider myself a photographer, but ultimately at the end of the day, I just have this love affair with this thing called a camera.
So you were how old when this all happened?
14, 15 years old, got a good old Pentax. Oh, right here in the Ozarks. I grew up in Lebanon.
Okay.
And I remember driving to Springfield on a Saturday with about 150 greenbacks in my pocket, and I got my first camera.
Is that right? So your parents introduced you to this, or was it somebody at school?
I always had a fascination with art, and like so many people, I mean, even back then, before the digital age where everybody's got a camera in their phone, I wanted a camera. And so, my mom, which we didn't have a lot, but she's like, we're going to save, we're going to get you one. And so it was a special day, and it hasn't really stopped.
Wow, that's an amazing story. So through high school, were you like a photo club, something like that? Is that?
Oh gosh, I was crazy. I mean, just all the time. I was the guy walking around the hallway with, the geek with the walking down the hallway with the camera hanging around their neck. Right. And so at Lebanon High School, of all places, and it was me and a couple of other people. We started the whole photography thing at Lebanon. We built the dark room in the high school, the whole works, and I did the whole thing as far as let's take pictures of the sunsets, the trees, all this good stuff. But it didn't take very long till I realized my calling was not to photograph those things. They're all good, they're all great, but for me it's been people. And to this very day, I will get calls quite often to photograph things that don't involve people, that may pay very well, but I'm like, I can't do it. I got to stay true to my mission.
But you're not a wedding photographer.
Not really. I've shot weddings over the years, but there's a common theme to what I try to do. And that common theme is that I'm absolutely 100% fascinated by this thing called the person. Mm-hmm. And as people, we never really think about this. We don't wake up in the morning, we don't look in the mirror and say, wow, I am dazzled by what I'm looking at. We don't dazzle at the fact that we're all one-of-a-kind creations, miracles, nobody else like us. And so for me, that's been the driving force artistically. It keeps me young.
So for you, the photo is almost the fingerprint. Everybody's different. You can bring that out of them in the photo.
That's it. And for a fact, there's the old saying, a photo's worth 1,000 words. Mm-hmm. I truly feel like if I don't capture that fingerprint, like you just said, that uniqueness about a person, it won't generate 1,000 words. And at some level, I failed as an artist. But that's always my mission. It's like, how can I capture this little truth, these things about this person, where then somebody that doesn't know this person from Adam or Eve will look at them and they want to know them. They want to learn more about them. What's the mystery behind this person?
What's the why?
What's the why? That is it.
I got to tell you, my guest this morning on Around the Ozarks is Randy Bacon, and Randy's here not just because he's a photo artist, but I had a chance to take a tour of his gallery. And your gallery is where for everybody?
600 West College Street, right downtown Springfield, Missouri.
And currently, Randy has an exhibit of, I know it's more than 30?
Yeah. We, exhibited-wise, we have 34 large-scale portraits. Each one has a story, and we even created a 30-minute short film that goes with it.
Now, these are photos, color photos.
They're color photos.
Of local homeless men and women.
That's right.
And interesting to me is, for me anyway, with seeing the exhibit, as Randy says, their faces tell a story, but there's also a story told along with each photo. And it really sparked interest in me because every story is different.
Every story is different, and every story counts. There's something about everybody's story that's there for a reason.
Now, you shot entirely in color.
Yes.
And I think I asked you about that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I'm nowhere near. I took a little photography class in college, and was really, for me personally, I was excited about black and white because I thought at the time that black and white could also tell a story. Not so much people, I was shooting things, but the shadows and the grays and that sort of thing. But it intrigued me that I think that's one of those 50% of America might say black and white and 50% might say color. But your color photography of these individuals really tells the tale of the tape. I'm not sure you could catch some of that in black and white.
Yeah, for most people that know me, they're like, "Oh, Randy Bacon, he's the black and white guy."
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I'm historically known for that, but I love both. And depending on what I'm trying to create, I think one will speak better than the other. For this project, I really wanted to create images of these special people that just happen to be homeless, but where you can look at them face to face. They're all close-ups, and I wanted to be as absolutely as real as possible.
Well, when you say close-ups, I mean you are almost in the heart and soul of each of these individuals.
Yes, and when I shoot that way, I don't shoot with a telephoto. I'm literally in their face. I'm typically sometimes within 12 inches of their face when I do those shots.
Now, do you shoot on film or do you shoot digital?
Digital, yeah. I made the change in around 2006, 2007. I was like one of the last professionals in Springfield to do it, and it was somewhat of a bittersweet time. But now I'm totally into it.
Is digital photography a little like CDs versus vinyl LPs, or no? In that, does film allow you to do some things maybe you can't do in digital, or is that not the case?
I think there's. It's kind of like vinyl because I've got quite the vinyl collection. There's a certain romanticism to it, but at the end of the day, with what we can do with digital, it is very impressive. Like for example, the prints that I'm showing, they're very large. They're very large, but you can get within inches of these, and it's almost like you can just almost feel their skin. It is so detailed. To do that with film is almost next to impossible.
Yeah, you have to see the exhibit. My guest is Randy Bacon, and when did the exhibit open, the homeless exhibit that you shot?
It opened October 5th, which was a private event, and October 7th was the general public, which on the both openings were like just incredible. They blew away all of our expectations. For a fact, on the one on Friday, we had an estimated 1,500 to 2,000 people walk through to see this.
Is that right?
And it was amazing because you had a large contingent of homeless there amongst Springfield's elite and otherwise, and they were all there together in harmony.
Now, if I'm a school teacher or I'm involved somehow in education and I wanted to bring my class to something like this, what would I need to do? Would I call you directly, or how do I get in touch with with your office, if you will?
That's been one of the unexpected highlights of this whole thing is I'm already getting calls from several schools to bring youth to see this project. Mm-hmm. And so far, Kickapoo has came. We've got Marshfield coming. Rogersville has contacted me. So all you got to do is just email me or call me, and we can get it arranged.
Does an exhibit like this ever find its way to the Springfield Art Museum, or is that not the intent?
The intent from the get-go on this exhibit is that we never want to set in a closet. And so after it leaves our gallery, it's going to start traveling. And we're still working out details on certain places, but for sure, of all places, which is kind of ironic, but also very exciting, it's going to the YMCA, Southside Y, for the entire month of December and then part of January. Because the administration there saw the need that we need to show this to the people that are coming into the Y, which I think that is so unusual but
great. That should get a lot of eyes there.
It's going to get a lot of eyes,
and again, it answers a lot of the whys too. I think that's really the most intriguing. The stories are so poignant. The stories
are. And, I get asked quite often, why such a fascination with homeless? Mm-hmm. Why would you want to do this in the first place as compared to some other thing? And it's really personal. And the personal part of it is that I'm guilty. I'm guilty like so many people when, you may be walking downtown Springfield or even on the south side of town or in some other city, and you may see somebody that's like, well, I think this is a homeless person. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain sense of like, well, I need to go to the other side of the street. I need to avoid this person. Oh, my goodness, are they going to attack me? On and on and on. Mm-hmm. I was that person. And I would literally go to the other side of the street. Now, what happened was my eyes were opened. In other words, I started to learn that, I'm looking at this cover of a book, and I learned to at least open to page 1. And when I did that with the homeless people that I met, I started to find out it's like I was so wrong. These, for the most part, are just really good people. Their stories can be very hard. There's many reasons why they shouldn't be there, but they are. And to be honest, when I call them homeless people, I really prefer to call them homeless friends because pretty much everybody in the exhibit is now my friend.
That's amazing. We're going to break in just a moment. You're listening to Around the Ozarks on the Midwest Family Broadcasting Group of radio stations. I'm your host, Scott Meyer, and when we return, Randy's going to tell us a little bit about some of these individuals because he seems to know them pretty well.
I do.
Great.
Wow the whole family with the Ozark Festival of Lights. Drive through the mile-long display of beautiful festive holiday lights in the Finley River Park located in Ozark. This free display is sure to put a smile on every member of your family's face. See the display from now until January 1st from 5:30 to 9 every night. This event is proudly brought to you by U.S. Automotive in Ozark, Ozark Chevrolet, Big Whiskeys in Ozark, the City of Ozark, and your Midwest Family radio stations.
Welcome back to the second segment of Around the Ozarks. I'm your host this morning, Scott Meyer, and we are joined by one of the Ozark area, not simply Springfield's preeminent photo artists, at least certainly one that I'm very fascinated with. His name is Randy Bacon, and he's one of our own, and he has an exhibit currently at his studio about area homeless. Now, before we get into stories about a couple of these folks that you've had a chance to meet, you've done other exhibits, I'm sure.
A lot.
And you said you don't really like to concentrate that much on things as you do people. Tell us a little bit about some of your other people exhibits.
Well, when I first got into the business, which was many, many moons ago, I won't even say how long ago it was, but it was a long time ago, I started realizing that whether I'm photographing a family or a high school teenager or whatever the case is, there's actually something more to it. And so the images I started creating started revealing that. And with the revealing of that this portrait, there's more depth to it than just a picture, I started getting calls. Mm-hmm. And as an example, one call I got was from Cox Health Systems. And this was when they were doing their grand opening on the Halston Cancer Center. And then they're like, hey, can you chronicle 8 or 9 patients that we have that are going through this struggle of cancer, but they're kicking it. They're surviving it. And I did. And so we did a series of portraits, which they still hang at the center. And we got their stories, and it turned out great. But what is really the highlight of the whole thing is it did not stop. To this very day, this has been 10 years later, I'm still photographing people for what's called Sweet Life, Cancer's Unexpected Lessons. And so we're up to probably 100 of people that's like, I'm going through this thing called cancer. I'm a survivor. This is how I got through it. I want people to know this to give them strength. Now, that's one example. I've done work with Lost and Found. I've done work with Mercy Hospital, Literacy Council, and others as well. Interesting, like, for example, at Sweet Life, that job was 10 years ago. Literally just 2 months ago, this project is still generating around the world.
Really?
Yes, and I got a call from the #1 newspaper in Berlin, and they wanted to feature Sweet Life on the Sunday cover of their paper.
Is that right?
10 years later.
Wow.
But here you got Berlin. Here we got the message here, and there's a unity to it that resonates across all cultures and countries.
The beauty of photography, right?
It's just the beauty of really this thing called life. I mean, ultimately, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Is we're really not that different. I've had the crazy great experience to travel quite a bit. I've been to at least half the states in America doing various photo work and such, and I've been to maybe 15 or 20 different countries. Most of the countries I've been to are not your normal travel destinations, places like Georgia, not Atlanta, but the country Georgia, Ukraine, Estonia, a few countries in Africa, Central America, Calcutta, India, and even in Cairo, Egypt during the riots. I literally filmed the riots.
Is that right?
Yeah, this would have been 4 years ago or something like that. What I'm finding, though, is like no matter what the country or the culture, there's really a oneness to this thing called life. I find that people, it's like they have a need to feel important, that their life matters. They have a story that counts. They want to be loved. They want to love. They want to live a life of higher purpose. And I find that totally fascinating.
I think in today's world they call that a selfie.
Maybe. I may question that, but we'll...
Getting back to your homeless exhibit.
Yes.
So you've done 34, 34, correct?
Yeah, we're up to 50 now.
Oh, you are up to 50.
Yeah, we're going to keep growing the number.
How do you stop? I mean,
probably not.
Is there a number in your mind where you feel like you'll have come to the end of this and move on to the next? It's like a never-ending litany of different people and different stories. I mean,
we have this goal of 100 because we do have plans in 2017 releasing a coffee table art book, The Road I Call Home. And so we're going to at least feature 100 in that, although it's really hard to say no. When we first started the project, The Road I Call Home, the homeless community was somewhat skeptical and questioning, which they should. After we completed our first set of shoots, the word started spreading through the street. And now a week doesn't go by that I don't have at least a couple that will come in and say, hey, I want my story to be captured and told as well. And that's hard to say no to that.
Oh, absolutely. And it raises a question, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but it might put you on the spot a little bit. So you create the coffee table book.
Yes.
And obviously that's going to be marketed. Is there something in it for all of the individuals that are part of the book?
What I'm finding, with the homeless, they have real life needs. They may need food, or they may need clothing or shelter and that type of thing. What I'm finding more than anything throughout the years and years is the number one thing they need is that they need to be seen. That they need to be seen by society that looks at them as like, okay, their walk's a little different from mine, but they're just as important as me. And that's what we're trying to get across with every single story. So the main thing we're trying to do is raise awareness. Now with this book, of course, the idea is that, hey, we will generate income, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea with that is that it will go, we've got a partner gathering Friends for the Homeless.
Okay.
And so a good portion is going to go right back into the trenches. The other portion is going to go to our nonprofit 7 Billion Ones, which is basically our whole movement of capturing stories every single week, all walks of life, not just homeless, but all walks of life.
Our guest this morning is Randy Bacon here in Springfield, a photo artist who has an exhibit currently. Again, the address on where the exhibit is?
It's at 600 West College Street.
And for them to get a hold of you, to be able to have a walkthrough, if you will, what do they need to do?
The gallery's open Tuesday through Saturday. Now, for the general public, we have the gallery open from 1 until 5, but we also show by appointment. And if you want to make an appointment, you can just call me at 868-8179, and we'll go from there.
We'll make sure to put that on our website along with the opportunity for you all to re-listen to this broadcast. Now, one of the things I ask, Randy, every time we have a guest is relating a story, something that struck you as, I guess in this case, kind of a driver for where this has gone or where it's going or why it started. Can you relate a story for us that that really touched your soul with this, that maybe stands out from some of the other stories that the folks might have had?
Yeah, I mean, with each person I photographed, I mean, they've all got such an incredible story. They seriously do, and some are very uplifting, some are tragic. Mm-hmm. One in particular that was it's heart-wrenching, to be honest. His name is Danny Gonzalez. I'll never forget him. First time I met him was at Crimson House at a Tuesday night food outreach, and he said he wanted to be part of the project, and he said, I'm even going to bring my camp buddies. And I showed up the next day on time, just like he said, and we did a wonderful photo shoot with him, and we talked and we laughed, and then we did a short video with him, which became part of our 30-minute short film. And it was just a wonderful time. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the shoot, Danny looked at me and he said, I'm just so thankful that you're doing this. We're giving everybody a full set of photos, and we give them a gift card just as a small thank you. But he was so excited about the photos. He was going to try to get them to his family, which he had not seen in years. Mm-hmm. And he ended it by basically saying, he's like, I'm glad I did this because I don't know if I'm going to be here much longer. That was that. I scolded him. Mm-hmm. I said, don't say that, Danny. You're going to be fine. About 3 or 4 days passed, and he calls me. He's got a cell phone, and he calls me at home, and we had like a 45-minute talk. He's talking to me from his camp, and we were just having a really good time. He introduced me to all of his – he's got like a whole bunch of kitty cats, and you know, he puts them up to the phone, and they meow and various things. And so we had a great talk, and that was that. Like 2 days passed after that, and then I got the word that he died.
Natural causes, or was it
natural causes in during the middle of the night? So there's a possibility he froze. They're not really sure.
Oh, it's a tragic story.
It's tragic, and even with what he said, it's like it's almost like this was meant to be in a bad way. A couple months went by, and I started editing all the footage, and there's a lot of it. I filmed 25 different people. I got to his footage, and I couldn't even remember what he said in the video. And what he talked about, he said, what's the hardest thing about being homeless? And his whole thing was, it is just breaking his heart to see his friends die on the street. Mm-hmm. And he lost 8 within the last 12 months. Wow. They died on the street. And he said, he said, what's so bad about this is that they're not even recognized. They're cremated. Many times their family never even knows. There's nothing in the paper. They're gone. The terrible irony is that's exactly what happened to him. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, of all the stories, that one had a strong statement, but it's tragic. But people need to grab onto it. And that is, we got to do something about changing this. We got to do something about living this day to the fullest, and we've got to do something about giving maybe a little bit more respect to the homeless, especially at that time of their life.
You know, I got to tell you, having seen the exhibit, and I used to live in New York City, so I've seen my share of homeless.
Oh, yes.
But after seeing the exhibit and reading the stories, and I think I read every one of them before I left there, now I find myself doing exactly that. When I see somebody, if I'm on foot, I'll walk up and give them $1 or $2, say hello, ask them how their day is. And I can't think of, and I spend a lot of time around the arts, but I can't think of the last time something moved me like your exhibit. And well, thank you. I mean, you opened my eyes, and as I say, when you read the stories and realize some people actually want to be out there, they want to be off the grid, and but many obviously aren't necessarily there because they want to be, and that's interesting to know that as well. But this thing begs a documentary, I would think. I mean, it screams to me like PBS or somebody would say, "Hey, we could turn this into really quite a look, not just at Springfield's homeless, but just homeless in general."
In general,
you've really given it such a soul with your photography.
That's exactly what I'd hoped and really prayed to accomplish. That people would see the soul be beyond the weathered skin. And after the exhibit, and even during the exhibit, I started seeing the change, just like you said about you. And for us, that was one of the big goals. During the opening to the public, I had like a little 8 or 9 or 10-year-old boy come up to me, and his mom was standing by him. And he comes up to me and kind of tugs on me, and he's like, I want to give all of my money to one of the homeless. Can I do that? And of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like incredible. And he's like, it's $20. Which to him, that was like a fortune.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
And so he went up and gave it to, his name is Donis, but his street name is Caveman, and wanted a picture with Caveman. And so for that night, well, number one, Caveman has been treated like he's never been treated in his entire life. He's been homeless since the age of 12.
And he's how old now?
40-something.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty much his entire life. For a fact, when Caveman walked into the exhibit that night, he stood right by the front door. And then one of our workers said, "Hey, Caveman, why don't you come on back where everybody's at?" And he's like, "Well, I can't come back there. That's where the important people are." And then so this worker said to him, "No, but you are the important one." So he came back and literally had the time of his life that night. And I see Caveman every now and then, and it changed him. And it changed a lot of other people, just like that little boy that gave $20. I'm thinking of one instance of a lady that works right on the square in what is the HERS building and the software company. And she told me, she said, "Randy, before this," she said, I literally, just like you used to do, I would go to the other side of the street, do everything in my power to avoid talking to a homeless or them asking me for $1 or whatever. She said, but since the exhibit now, I go out of my way to walk on the same side of the street. And she went on to tell me of one now where it's like she's pretty much adopted him. His name is Weldon. And so every day she's looking for Weldon. "Can I take you to lunch? How's your day, Weldon?" And I have never met Weldon, but I know by that interaction, he still is on the street, but his life is much improved because of that relationship.
If you needed to put or had to put a number on it, do you have any idea how many homeless we have just here in metropolitan Springfield?
They're literally going to be doing counts soon, and it can vary based on many factors. What I'm hearing is probably around 1,000, but that may be low. It's really hard to get an accurate count because, number one, a lot of them won't even come to these counts, and so it's a guess at best.
So if we can end this conversation on a high note, I guess the high note would be to stop and take a moment and recognize these folks when you come upon them?
I would challenge everybody to do that with everybody. And, especially with, somebody that's disenfranchised, like somebody that's homeless. With all walks of life, there's good people and there's some people that maybe is not so good. And it doesn't relate to whether you have those four walls around you or not. That's what I found. So if you want to just say hello, how's your day, that in itself can change a life.
Randy Bacon, I want to thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Sharing not only your story, but the story of so many others. And I hope that everyone in the audience gets a chance to find their way over to your studio.
I would love that.
And see the exhibit and really get to know these folks like I have a little bit and like you have a lot. But it's really fascinating. That's it for this morning's Around the Ozarks. Again, my name is Scott Meyer. I'm the general manager here at Midwest Family Broadcasting Radio Stations. You can hear a replay of this morning's show simply by going to mwfmarketing.fm and clicking on the Around the Ozarks button. Randy, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I really look forward to finding you in the hallways and or in the is it in the hallways of the YMCA, the South YMCA?
It is.
That where? Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be right in the entryway when you go in.
Excellent. And we'll look for the book, and hopefully it'll be on Amazon.
We're going to get it everywhere we can.
Excellent.
So we have big plans for it.
Excellent. Thanks again.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for joining us for Around the Ozarks, a public affairs program brought to you by your local Midwest Family Broadcasting Station. Listen again next Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Find this and all other segments of Around the Ozarks at mwfmarketing.fm.